Today on the Small MP Project, I'll be talking to Andrew Leigh, the federal member for Fraser. Andrew, thanks for taking time to talk to me today for the Small MP Project. It's greatly appreciated. And look, congratulations on the election. I guess sort of commiserations on the losing government. But hey, you're still there, so that's good. You're still representing the people of Canberra. Look, I guess before I get into the 5 questions for the Small MP Project, just tell me about you. What you're obviously a member for Fraser. So what does that entail?
So being a member for Fraser entails being a problem solver, essentially. Whether that's assisting someone getting their local street fixed, whether it's assisting someone with an inquiry with Centrelink, sometimes whether it's talking about government policy. I try and be a one-stop shop for government problems, with the idea that you shouldn't need to know whether your problem's a federal or an ACT one. You should just be able to come to me, and my team and I will do our best to take care of it.
Okay. And how long have you been in politics?
I joined the Parliament in 2010. It was my second run for Parliament. I ran unsuccessfully in 1995 as a 21-year-old whippersnapper against a bloke called Barry O'Farrell. I got an 8% swing towards me, and he still won with a 24% margin.
Okay. Well, you're still there, which is the main thing. I guess before I go into my questions, one of the things I was keen to know, like obviously representing the people of Fraser. How are you now going to sort of help businesses being in opposition?
I'll continue to be a strong advocate for Canberra. Many of the inquiries that I get come from small businesses concerned about things like access to the national broadband network or questions of entitlements, issues of regulation even come up. And I'll be a strong voice carrying those to the Abbott government. And making the case that Canberra jobs are just as important as jobs in the rest of the country.
Sure.
Ours isn't a city which consists of dispensable public servants. It's a vibrant community, just as vibrant as the local communities that Mr Abbott and Mr Hockey represent. And I want to be a strong advocate of that. Yeah,
sure. But I guess it's going to be a lot more of a challenge for you to actually get that voice heard and actually get some, I guess, solutions to businesses or getting solutions for any issues that get brought to your attention, isn't it?
I think it's about working constructively and respectfully, and I actually saw some of the more effective opposition members in the last term of government who, when they needed something done, would work respectfully and quietly with a Labor minister to achieve the outcome for their community. Okay. My notion of politics is it's not good people versus bad people. It's fundamentally groups of people who have different views about the world, but are essentially trying to make Australia a better place. Right. So I'm optimistic about my ability to work with the Abbott government to achieve the best results for the people of North Canberra.
Okay, excellent. All right, let me ask you a few of my standard questions that I've got with a slight twist for someone who's not in business as such, but yes. Although your office is a business. Why do you think so many people go into business, especially in the Canberra region?
I think people go into business to have the opportunity to work for themselves, to have the opportunity to grow something new, to try and make a difference and see whether they can make a go of an idea. There's many terrific businesses just within a few hundred metres of my office, sure. Whether they're local cafes, bike stores, fashion stores. A whole lot of new entrepreneurial businesses are growing in Canberra, and that's a sector I really want to work to support.
Right, okay. And have you been in business yourself, apart from running this office?
I worked did some consulting while I was in my previous role, but predominantly I've worked for larger organisations.
Okay. And what's, I guess, looking at you as a business operator here in the electorate office, what's your biggest challenge here?
It's maintaining the sort of sense of common purpose of the team.
Yep.
I think when you've got a team like ours is, with 4 full-time staff, a couple of part-time staff, and then a bevy of volunteers and supporters, it's really important that you chart a purpose for the office. And talk with the team to get their feedback on how to do things better. Okay. Recognising that improving the way in which you run your organisation isn't just a question for the person at the top of the organisation, but that actually change comes right through the organisation.
Sure. Sounds like you've got some similar challenges to what a lot of other businesses have as well.
I imagine so.
So from speaking to business owners, because obviously, this last election, both parties seem to have a bigger interest in small business. I think it's become a lot more elevated in its focus. What do you see as being the biggest challenges out there for business owners?
Well, I've spent a lot of time talking to Cosboa and to Aki, who ran their Small Business Too Big to Ignore campaign.
Yep.
And I think for ACT businesses, having a strong and sustainable public sector is the bedrock of ACT prosperity. I'll be working to ensure the Abbott government doesn't cut too savagely into public services. But I'm also excited about the possibility of building more entrepreneurial businesses here in Canberra. Entry 29, I think, is a really interesting innovation hub. And I'm struck when you go look at universities like MIT and Stanford, surrounding their campus are an array of entrepreneurial businesses. You don't see that so much around UC and ANU, and I think we can potentially change that.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I saw Entry 29 early this week, actually, for the first time, so it's a good concept.
Yeah, ours is an ideas city, and we need to build on that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of knowledge here as well, which is the important thing. What would you advise business owners to do to sort of focus working on their business versus in their business? And I guess you even relate it to your personal context of you have to run a business as well as run an electorate as well. So how do you focus on and in?
I think the challenge is always in separating the urgent from the important. And one of the things that I find myself fighting against every day is the demands of tasks that are not particularly important but need to be done with some tight deadline.
Right.
So in my case, that's often responding to email or phone calls or responding to media inquiries, compared with the deeper jobs of working out what you're going to do on a particular policy question, and what are the fresh ideas you're going to bring to the table. Sure. So carving out that thinking time, I find a constant battle with the diary. I'm getting a little better at it, but still not great.
Well, I guess the last month or so you've probably had a lot of practice of setting priorities and managing your diary. So
Indeed. An election is completely all-consuming, particularly in my case, as I've got the largest electorate in Australia, nearly 140,000 voters. So that's a great privilege, but also a challenge in terms of serving that community.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't realise that. It's a big responsibility too. And my final question for you, Andrew, is what advice would you have for people who are thinking about or about to go into business, so for newbies?
Go for it. You only get to live life once, at least on most conceptions of religion. And so that, I think, means that if you want to have a shot at something, you should take it. People, by and large, won't mark you down for having a failure. In fact, having had a business that didn't work out can be a story that you use to make a later success. Right. I think in Silicon Valley, you'll often hear venture capitalists saying they don't want to back anyone who hasn't had a failure because they don't know what failure tastes like. Sure. I'd love to see more of that in Australia. I'd love to see more successful businesses, but frankly, I wouldn't mind seeing some more business failures if it meant that we had more people trying risky ideas. Okay. That culture of entrepreneurship and risk-taking is something I really want to encourage building in Australia, and I reckon it can start right here in Canberra. Okay,
interesting. I like that idea. Just one little extra thing, I suppose, to throw in there again. Why do you think it was such a focus on small business in this election for both parties? Why did that sort of take a shift compared to previous elections, or have I misread it?
Well, I think small business had in the past been taken for granted, and it had just been assumed that business people vote for the coalition. And in this election, the Labor Party made a strong pitch for the support from small business. We ran to the election on raising the instant asset write-off, on providing raising the threshold on which businesses had to pay GST to take off businesses some of the challenges of paperwork. And we did that because we believe that fundamentally small business oughtn't be taken for granted, and that building businesses is something that's in Labor's DNA. We're a party that believes in prosperity and opportunity, and you can't believe in those things and not be pretty passionate about small business in Australia.
Definitely. You've got to practice what you preach. Andrew, look, greatly appreciate your time. I know you've had a very busy schedule. I know that the demands of a political life are immense, so I greatly appreciate you showing an interest in small business, especially in Canberra, so appreciate your time in the Small MV project.
Pleasure. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.